Welcome back. Fine in and out, where science meets soul. I'm your host, Emmy Stoltz, and today we're stepping into the world beneath our feet and inside our bodies. Our guest, Michelle Heberling, is a writer, a fermentation educator, and a researcher whose work refuses to separate food from the soil, the systems, or the people it touches. Her new book, The Guts of Fermentation, is the first of its kind. It's not just recipes, it's not just science. It's the story of how everything we touch, taste, and grow is part of one microbial network. She brings us recipes, science, and the whole lot of truth to the forgotten art of nourishment, reminding us that healing the gut is not a trend, it's a return. Michelle, thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. All right. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Samantha.
Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to start with your story because I know you started as a project manager and here you are today doing something completely different. So walk us through how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, to start off, before I was a project manager, I was a little farm girl in Oklahoma, lived off the land. We only ate what we grew and what we raised. And we did that for many, many years. Culling chickens is something I've done many times, and also rabbits. And it meant why I tell you this is because it meant we had chicken once a week. That's it. Once a week we had chicken. And it was a big deal to have chicken. And once a week we'd have rabbits. That kind of food sovereignty pretty much stays with you from the time you're little until you grow up. And then my mom got divorced. And so we moved to the city, and now we don't have any gardens. We don't have any chickens. We don't have any rabbits. We don't have any fruit trees. It's a whole different world. And I watched the food change. I'm 59. And when I was a little girl, you ate what you grew, you traded with your neighbors. You didn't go to grocery stores. Sounds crazy when you think about that now, but you didn't go to grocery stores. And then I moved to San Francisco sight unseen and had many jobs. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but one gig was a company based out of New York where I was a project manager. And that took me out of the country. I actually had two project management positions, one in Boston and one in New York, and both of them I was traveling for. So when I got outside of the country as an adult, I was really blown away at how different the flavors of the food and how clean it felt. And then when I come back to the US and it felt all processed, which it pretty much is. I mean, if you look at the numbers on how many people cook at home, the numbers will tell you 70% of people cook at home, but that number does not define, was that processed food? Did you just heat it up?
Yeah.
Was it frozen?
Microwave meal?
Was it vegetables already cut? Yeah. All of that's lumped together in cooking at home. So, and there's no way to get the numbers on just cooking at home. So that was really worrying me. My son had a peanut allergy, and I couldn't believe how many foods I would go into the grocery store would have peanuts in the food that there was no reason to have peanuts in it or peanut oil. So I started making everything, and people were like, "Oh my God, your food is great. Why don't you cook for me?" So then I moved to meal prep, meal delivery. I started doing that, and then it changed to catering. And then what I found, my big love, was doing off-grid catering events. And how do you do a catering gig when you're off-grid? Well, you have to ferment your food because you don't have any refrigeration. You don't have running water, so you need to use the stream's water. So it was a really fun way to get into off-grid supplying food and talking about it and learning how good it makes you feel. And then watching these people show up for 4 days stressed and then leaving completely relaxed and happy and telling me how great their poops were. I mean, seriously, that is a huge topic of conversation, is how great of a poop they had. Yeah.
It defines a day.
Yeah, that's important.
It's like great poop, great day.
So I started documenting this and writing this down, and created a book. It's called The Guts of Fermentation. It's not
Love it.
only a way to bring back food, try to bring it back to you, it's also a way of saving money. And we're in an economy where, food is out of control. It's 30% up in pricing since COVID. And in some places, it can be even higher than that. And that doesn't include the pricing for to-go containers if you were to gonna box it up and ship it out. So, our restaurants are doing everything they can to provide us great food, but they're struggling as well.
Mm.
And so they're going to go cheapest, quickest, faster.
Yep.
Like
And usually that
everybody.
means
That's what we're
processed.
all doing. So I had this crazy, crazy experience where and this is going to get personal, my menstrual cycle went completely crazy for like a total of 15 years. And it was just a lot of blood loss. I mean, so bad that many times I found myself in the ER. And I
Jeez.
was pushed to get a hysterectomy, and I wouldn't do it because it totally terrified me. So I did DNCs and ablations, which is kind of like burning the lining. And that would cover me for a little bit. But I was anemic for 15 years. And when you're anemic, there's a lot of things that happen in your body that you become weaker. I went on a backpacking trip and stepped on a pebble and blew my knee out and my root meniscus, and I had to be carried down on a stretcher 3 miles. Insane, right? I had a tooth pulled and I got an infection and ended up in the hospital because it was so bad. Then I get kind of healed and then I have a car accident. So all these things were piling up in 5 years' time. And I reached a breaking point, and doctors were just giving me pain pills, prednisone, flora, trying to get my microbes back in my body because they put so many antibiotics in me. And I just cold turkeyed it all and went back to basics and started eating fermented foods. And within 2 weeks, I started finding myself better.
Wow.
It was like when I get sick, I kind of do this description of everything seems gray and very difficult. And then once you feel better, everything turns to color. That's kind of the way I felt I bet it was 6 months after my car accident that I was in this fog and so depressed. So I started, because I couldn't work, I started working on my book, and it started out just as a recipe book for fermented foods in case you go off grid. Because, somebody might want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I started researching
I just spent 4
and
days
learning about
camping in the middle of nowhere, so I would have loved that.
Oh, the fermented foods are amazing. Or like miso balls, and all you have to do is add water to them. We'll get there. But so this fog I was in, I went back to eating the fermented foods. And when you start off eating fermented foods, you don't want to like blow your gut up, like have a lot of gut pains.
Overwhelm it. Yeah.
So you start off with like a teaspoon, and I did a teaspoon 3 times a day. And I built up to a tablespoon, sometimes 2 tablespoons. Sometimes I really get into it. But I started out 3 times a day and kept my diet the way I was normally eating. Didn't change anything there. And I kid you not, I dropped 25 pounds. And all I did was I added fermented foods, and I also drank a glass of lemon water with salt in the morning. And that's proven. That gets your bile flowing. And it's just a great way to start your day. So I was like, this is really making me feel good. Maybe I should document what I'm doing. And so it was like 3 ferments a day, the lemon water. And then I was like, well, I need to add more diversity to my foods. So let's do 30 types of vegetables, nuts, and grains into my diet every week and see what that does. And I was like, whoa, this is making me feel so good. So I completely changed my whole outlook. That gut brain access that you get, it's people will say your gut is your second brain.
Yeah.
And the serotonin that's produced in your body and the dopamine that's produced in your body mostly comes from the gut. It doesn't come from the brain. It comes from the gut.
Yeah, the serotonin is like 90%.
Is it 90? I thought it was 8. That's good to know. Yeah, It's amazing, isn't
We'll look
it?
into that.
Yeah, yeah. But the gut brain axis, it was so interesting to learn that I was feeling happy and it had everything to do with healing my gut. I'm like, what else can I do? And so then I started following with some movements and water aerobics and walking and then doing affirmations, saying positive things, writing them down, and then belly laughs. Those
Oh,
are it. That's my 2-week reset in a nutshell. I mean, it gets into a lot more than that, but um, it got me out of my funk. No pills, no supplements. I didn't even need to go to the gym. I could do it all in my house, which was really nice because it was a really sad, sad time. I mean, it was just getting hit left and right. Yeah. So I did that. And then I'm a chef. So I utilized my chef skills and decided, okay, one thing that people always freaked out on my food, they couldn't believe how flavorful it was. And it was flavorful because I grew most of it.
hmm.
The carrots they were eating had just came out of the ground,
Yeah.
or the onions or the spinach, all these vegetables that I grow. And I found that it's not common anymore. People have lost sight as to what real food tastes like.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, the wild part is that the ultra-processed foods bypass the gut's natural sensory system altogether. So when the flavor is engineered to hijack your dopamine, but the nutrient feedback loop never actually arrives from these foods. So the brain thinks,
yes,
"Oh, we did good. We got great food," and the body's like, "I'm starving. What's happening? I don't have what I need." And so maybe even just a part of feeling better was that your body was able to relax, that it was getting what it needed.
absolutely. And talking on those microbes, we live in a country that we do monocropping and we use these huge machines to till our soil. And when we do that, we kill the life forms that's in the soil. So if our life forms have been killed in the soil, we're doing the same type of crop like corn for like 300 acres. You're not really going to get a lot of diversity in that soil. And then they add their synthetic fertilizers on top of it. And if you look at that stuff under a microscope, there's nothing living. It's completely dead. Just like the compost that they have brought in. It's not alive
Mm.
either. It's dead. You have to use compost in the right way. It's almost like you need to make it yourself. So just to talk a little quickly about the circle of life, you start with the forest with the indigenous microorganisms. You incorporate them into your farming or your garden beds. Those microbes hold the water and feed nutrients to all the plants around that, whatever's growing. And then that turns into vegetables that we can preserve, which is if we ferment them, we keep those microbes on it. The sidebar, any vegetables you buy at a grocery store is not going to have microbes on it because they've already sterilized it. They've,
Mm.
they've dunked it in some sort of bleach water, some sort of cleaning material that they used, and they got rid of all the microbes. So even the microbes that are there are not what was in the soil. So you go to eating those vegetables that are raw with microbes, that's going to feed your gut. Your gut's going to feel good. It's going to accept the good microbes and get rid of the bad ones. And then it's going to release the dopamine that makes you happy and makes you feel good. So when big ag comes in and changes it, there's nothing alive in the soil to begin with. So there's no way we would have the proper nutrients on our vegetables, in our vegetables, that we could eat, consume, and feel good about.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I
kind of a
always like
sad
to
thing, but what?
I was just saying I always like to think of it as like, what did our ancestors do? Because we inherited their genes and their systems, and their gene expression patterns were affected through the fermented and nutrient-dense food that they were eating. And they were
Yes.
part of the diet that formed our DNA. And so it's literally in our
And our
code.
DNA is changing. Our DNA is changing now. We are changing how we are because of what we've outsourced on our food systems. You know, our ancestors had an abundance of grains to choose from to eat. They grew everything. Corporate America has come down to like four: soy, corn. What's the fourth one? Soy, corn, wheat, and
Oats?
oats. Yeah. And that's it. Sorghum. There are
Yeah.
so many
Buckwheat.
great greens out there. Yeah. But corporate, this is a little, this is going to be ugly on corporate America. I know there's a ton of people that this impacts from a work-life balance. So many
Mhm.
people are working for these companies, but there are these organizations that decide, you know, what vegetable to grow because it has the most weight. It looks the prettiest. It doesn't bruise.
Mm,
Flavor is never part of the category. And so if you just look at a tomato, we shouldn't be getting tomatoes in the wintertime. We should
yeah.
only be getting those in the summer.
The seasonal eating,
But
yeah.
yeah, but we have all kinds of vegetables. Anything we want, we can go to the store and get. Doesn't mean it's going to taste good, but we do get it.
You're so
So
right.
I
I
was on
mean,
a rant there for a little bit.
no, no, no. What you're saying about the corporate America stuff, like, something that keeps coming up for me is that we're trying to replicate nature so that we're self-sufficient from it. Like, we're trying to create all of these foods so that we don't need to rely on nature to create them for us. And whereas our ancestors literally relied on nature, like prayed to nature to help us eat. And I think we've gotten so far from that place because we're so eager to feel self-sufficient and not rely on something else. And as amazing as the science is, it can't replace what nature gives us, and that is the diversity.
Yeah. And our ancestors, which I actually have an entire chapter about fermentations from different countries in my book. It's a really fun little
Love.
ode to the different countries because we did not grow up learning about fermentation. You know, that wasn't our grandparents and great grandparents didn't teach us, hand down these skills, and it's skills that are getting lost. And
Yeah.
one thing I want to just drive home from a financial standpoint, because I think this is really important. What's the benefit of somebody eating fermented foods? Let's say they feel healthy and they're not worried about their gut. Well, how are you financially? Because you can buy a head of cabbage for $5 and you can make, you know, coleslaw from it and maybe get 20 servings out of it, but it'll only last like 3 days. Or you can take that $5, $6 head of cabbage and make a sauerkraut that will get you 120 servings out of it. Now, how incredible is that? So if you had 5 or 6 different ferments going at any given time, you would have an abundance of food to choose from and eat, and you don't need that much. And I
Yeah, I
always snuck
remember my
food into
first batch of
meetings.
sauerkraut. I was so afraid that I did
Do
something
you
wrong and I was gonna.
tell me?
Yeah, I was like, I was so excited, but I also had no guidance. Like you said, no one in my family had ever done it. I didn't know anybody who was doing it, so I just did some research online and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just put this in a jar with some salt. Like, it seemed a little too easy, and I was like, what if I let like bad microbes in and like, or like mold grows or something like that? But of course, and then I was like, well, how long does it last? Like, how do I know when it's gone bad? All of that stuff. And it's answers that I feel like would, if people had them, they would be more likely to do all of these things when they saw how safe they were.
It really is safe. And you can tell if something goes bad. And I have things that go bad still to this day. I've been fermenting for 20 years and I still have stuff that goes bad. And it could be that your jar was not sterile enough, or you didn't make sure that your vegetables were under the brine, and
Mm.
it just happens. Or you just forget about it. That's happened a lot too, where you just forget about something. But my first experience was in San Francisco, and I had this head of cabbage that I got from my CSA, which is a community supported agriculture. So it's a box of vegetables that comes to me, and
Love
I
that.
threw the cabbage away. What?
I love that. I was looking for that where I live, and the only place that did it had shut down, and I was like, this is horrible.
Well, farmers markets are everywhere, right? You
Yeah,
can get a
that's my
farmers
new
market and
key.
get it. Yeah, that's a good spot. But but I didn't want to throw it out. So this just ages me. I also went online, but it was AOL dial-up. Seriously, 3 minutes later, I knew what to do with it. And you know what? And I made that kraut and it had a weird smell to it, right? It was bubbling and I was raised on don't get botulism on your tomatoes. And that
Oh my
means
god.
if it's botulism, it's going to be bubbling, right? So I'm like, it's bubbling. What am I going to do? And I kept watching. I kept watching. I had to wait for like 2 weeks before I could taste it. I took and I tasted a teeny tiny piece and I went, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not going to get sick. And I didn't. And the flavor, it was pungent and it made me like, kind of step back and made me think about it. And that flavor stayed with me for a good 2 hours. I still could taste it. And then
Hmm,
I found myself going back for another bit and another and another. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
that's so
It's
cool.
not just for hippies.
Yeah, but you definitely need to be able to just trust what you're putting in your body, or else, from a immunological standpoint, like if you are
Uh-huh.
worried about the food that you're putting in your body's going to be worried as it's eating. So that's not a good state to be in. So
So
being
true.
educated before you do all of this is a great idea.
And my book has 127 recipes, clearly outlines how to do this safely, along with troubleshooting and what does this color mold look like? What does this mean? And it goes through it all. So I'm
That's
very excited to
perfect.
say that book will help.
It'll be our
But
one-stop
but
shop.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's got 127 recipes in it. But it's not a recipe book.
It's a guidebook.
It is a guidebook. Also in the book, if you're interested in trying your hand at indigenous microorganisms, I give you step-by-step instructions to go into the forest and actually gather them. It's a
That's so
really
cool.
cool experience to see. And all you do is you cook rice, put it in a basket, take it out into the woods, leave it there for 5 days, come back, and you will have mycelium growing on the top of it. And it'll smell sweet. It is incredible. You'll
Huh.
see the mycelium threads all through
It's
it. And it's
incredible.
almost like the forest decided, yes, we are going to come to you. And then you take that, shelf stabilize it, and then use it in your garden. It's incredible.
That's so cool. So for
Yeah.
those that don't have the space to do the gardening themselves and have to trust, say you even go to the farmer's market, how do
Yeah.
you know you're getting what you need?
That's a great question. And what we need to do is we need to start asking questions. And those questions need to be, how did you grow this vegetable? Was it grown in soil that's been tilled?
Mm,
Is it, how many acres do you have? Some people might get annoyed, but you need to ask those questions. Did you put chemicals, pesticides, herbicides? What did you do to it? How did you make it look so pretty? You
mm,
know, and if you pinch a strawberry and it doesn't stain your finger, ask them, why doesn't it stain my finger?
mm.
I think we have to get back to we have to take this back. We have to we can't outsource our food anymore. We really
Yeah.
need to take it back and say,
Take your health into your own hands. That's what we're all about here.
yeah,
100%.
yeah, it really is. And you'll save money by doing it.
So oh yeah, and you were saying 30 vegetables, grains, all of that a week. And so I'm sure you've heard of diversity jars.
Huh?
Okay, so I made one a while ago, but I'd love to hear, I blended all of these nuts and seeds and all of these things together and I just kind of sprinkle it on whatever I'm eating. But I'd love to hear how you implement this strategy, the 30 vegetables and grains a week. And,
So
it's
I do a lot
like,
of gardening. I forage. I'm a big forager for wild plants and also mushrooms. I incorporate
mm,
a lot in my food that way. I do, you can put kale and chard and spinach all together. That's three. It's really fast. Okay. If you make a Buddha bowl, do you know what a Buddha bowl is?
no? Or I guess like
A
just
Buddha
like a
bowl
grain
is
in
like
a.
it's like a bowl that has like all green vegetables,
Mm.
right? So it has avocado, it has onions, it has bell peppers, it has spinach and kale and chard. And let's say you make a basil dressing, pesto, do pesto. And the pesto's got some nuts in it too. You can get 30 very easily if you're
Hmm.
just combining everything. You make your sauces, you buy the vegetables at the grocery store. Don't buy the stuff that's frozen or already made in a package.
Mm.
You can take a spaghetti squash and that becomes your noodles instead of pasta. And there's
Oh.
another number for you. Get the wild grains that you can purchase. The black grain is really fun to eat, or um, uh, oat grot is a really good one. There's so many good grains out there to explore, and you can cook them just like you would rice, and that's
So
adding
where
more
do you get
diversity to your diet.
your grains that you can trust that they're from the right place?
So I have a bulk store in town that
Hmm.
I get all of my grains from, and I grind my grains to make flour and things like that too.
Wow.
Just there's something about I can't eat I can't eat processed food anymore. It just turns my stomach. The smell is too
Yeah.
chemically for me. So I try to make everything I can. Plus I eat really great for nothing. It's so cheap to do it this way.
So you said something about the frozen vegetables, and that's something that I do a lot because I don't like to waste. So if I know that like I can keep some of the vegetables or my berries in the freezer and then just eat them, I think I'm getting the same amount of nutrients. But what's your take on that?
Well, where did those berries come from is a question you've got to ask. I mean, blueberries used to be teeny tiny
I know
and
the
now they're
jumbos are
big and
so good
juicy.
though. I love
They are, aren't they? They are. So, you know, if you freeze it yourself, that's totally fine. It's
them.
just if you buy the produce that's frozen. So one thing I would challenge you with is instead of throwing it all in the freezer, make a jar of fermented carrots.
Yeah.
Just all you do with carrots, cut off the ends, wash them under the water. Don't put any chemicals or anything with them. Just wash them under the water, stick them in, weigh it, add 2% salt on top of what you have in the water and the carrots. Leave it sitting there for 2 weeks and you've got fermented carrots that will last you a year if you want them to.
Mm.
That's a great way to preserve your food instead of
Yeah.
freezing it. And the flavor gets better and the nutritional aspect of a carrot when it starts off raw and then you ferment it, it drops the sugars down from the carrot. So now on the ketogenic
Mm.
diet, you can eat carrots. But not only
Oh,
that, it increases the vitamin A. You get better benefits if you ferment it.
wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So one thing that I think people are like, well, what do I do with the fermented foods?
Yeah, where do I put
You
it?
can, yeah, make a sandwich, slap some on with your sandwich. What it does is it gives you this refreshing tang that you wouldn't normally have.
I love a
And it
tang.
just wakes you up. And you don't need, like I said earlier, you don't need that much. But like I do miso, I make a carrot miso that only
Mm.
takes a week. And I can make the carrot miso into balls and then I can take it with me. Like when I travel, I'll do that. And then I just add water and then I've got a protein source that is nothing. That is so
That is
easy to
so
manage.
smart because
Yeah.
when I'm like thinking about packing lunch for work, and I have to think about like, oh, I'm not going to want that cold, so I have to microwave it, but I don't like the way that meat tastes in the microwave and it's like a whole thing. So it's like if I just packed fermented foods. But so what does a day in your like diet look like? Because is it all fermented foods or is it like fermented foods as a garnish on top of
It's a
a
beautiful question. So let me just give you today. So I start off with I always have my lemon water first.
uh
Always. Lemon water with a pinch of salt and
Do you
I
do it
drink
warm?
it warm. Yeah, I
Okay,
drink
yeah.
it warm. And then I'll have my coffee and then I'll have some eggs for breakfast. And when I have my eggs for breakfast, I top it with some sauerkraut or some
Mm,
beets, because those are what you'll find if you
very
start eating
grounding.
fermented food is you get excited about it. It wakes you up and I drink my coffee just I don't even need my coffee now. I just do it because it's a ritual,
Yeah.
but it wakes you up. And everybody I tell to start doing that, they're like, wow, I had no idea. I can't wait to add fermented food to my breakfast. So that's breakfast. And then for lunch, I'll do like usually fermented carrots and a kombucha because I love to
Mm,
drink kombucha, but I like to make it myself. I don't like to buy it at the store. And
yeah,
I
I've
do
had
two
some
different
averse
ones.
reactions to store-bought kombucha, and I know it shouldn't be that way, so
It shouldn't. It is so harsh. And then June. June is another one that's like kombucha. June is with green tea instead of black tea. And you have your
mm,
SCOBY, but you use honey instead of sugar. It's a
I like
little
that.
softer. It's not as in your face rough. Yeah. It's
I know that
delightful.
the microbes eat up the sugar, but I still try to do a no sugar added type diet because it would have been natural sugars that our ancestors were using, not like granulated, bleached white.
Right. Oh yeah. Honey's great. Honey's a great sugar substitute. I'm a beekeeper, so been one for 20 years.
Love that. I think about that all the time. I love our bees. That's so
Bees are
great.
fantastic.
You're doing it
Yeah,
all, so
yeah.
you must have a chunk of property that you can do all this on.
Yeah, and I take bees to other people's property too. I do a lot of moving around, helping people with their homestead, trying to help them make money on their property
That's so
because I
cool.
truly believe if you've got any animals, they better be doing their side of keeping. In fact, in my book, I tell you how you can ferment chicken feed and ferment
Mm.
any sort of animal feed as well. I had a
And then you don't have to
dog.
worry about it going bad either.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
maybe my
fantastic.
cat should be on a fermented diet. I want him healthy as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, yeah, they just need a little tiny bit. But, I had a client had a dog that had this major diarrhea from the time he was a puppy. And he was like
Huh.
4 years old, and it was just like bombs
Wow.
everywhere in their yard. So I started him off with like a little bit of goat kefir, and he
Hmm.
lapped it up, man. And you're like, that's a sign that he's needing something. And then I put a little kraut juice, a little brine in his food, ate it up, and within 4 days, he was pooping solids for the first time in his life.
Crazy.
Yeah, it happens fast. It's an
You're the kraut
amazing
doctor.
yeah, maybe. But, going back to my day of food. So lunch, I usually do like a salad and I go grab whatever greens I've got growing in the garden and out in the field next
That's
to my
so
house.
awesome.
Veggies I add to it, and I usually throw in fermented carrots or something. And then for dinner, it's the same kind of thing. I'm always eating greens and I grow them so they're very flavorful. And mushrooms, lots of mushrooms. I
Hmm.
also grow mushrooms, so I have an abundance of mushrooms and I ferment them as well. My answer is always when I see produce, some of it has to be fermented immediately, and then the others I cook. And what I do instead of freezing it is I'll cook it all right away. And then that becomes my stock for the whole week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so are you vegetarian at this point?
No,
No?
no, I'm a meat lover. I don't think I could be a vegetarian. It would be a lot cheaper, but no, in fact, I might be moving more towards pescatarian just
Mm,
in my natural state because of all this research I did on the book. The big four players, two of the four aren't even in the US. One is
mm,
called JBS and they're located in Brazil. They started buying up all of our meat manufacturers and farmers in the 2000s. And
mm.
now they sell billions of dollars on meat and then they
Wow.
get the government subsidies, right? They get the subsidies and they're helping the farmers that are growing corn because corporate America said, grow corn, my cattle will eat it. Do you know cattle used to be, you could get omega-3s from your cattle. You can't get that now unless you know that your meat is on grass-fed farms.
Wow. Yeah, it matters what our
Shocking.
food is eating too. That's another thing you have to
Yes. It really
'Cause it's
does.
I mean,
Kind of
even from
scary.
the point of, like, the biomagnification, you see it in all worlds, like, with the mercury in the fish, like, the bigger the
Yeah.
animal, the more dense that they're so in that case, everything that the cow is eating is also going to be eaten by us if we're eating that cow. Um, yeah, absolutely. One thing
Yes.
that I think all of these resources that we have at our disposal, these like nutrition label interpreters, these, apps
Yes.
and barcode scanners, like it's a great tool for somebody, I guess, who doesn't know what they're looking for with their body, but it's also outsourcing the answers that we should have within with like, what do I need? How do you recommend people go from that reliance on a scan telling them a food is healthy versus what's actually good for
Oh,
them?
so 10 years ago, I would have said, get a label, whatever you buy, make sure it's under 5 ingredients. But I don't
Mm.
even say that now. Get whole foods. Don't buy anything processed. Stay away. You know, and a little exercise everyone can do is when you stand in the checkout line, count how many items in your grocery store will last longer than the food in your grocery cart. How many things do you have that's in containers that have shelf life? And then look at the person in front of you and the person behind you. I mean, it's kind of shocking. So the labels are driven by the 4 big corps, big ag that's out there right now. I mean, they are driving what happens. They put so much money into working with government to actually get the labels to say what they want the labels to say. I mean, they have the purse strings. They decide what's going to grow. They have the market on the seeds. They own the columbines and the farmers are doing everything they possibly can to be able to make ends meet, and it's coming to us, and nobody ever thought to ask, okay, we are where we are today. What did that do to the soil? And what is that doing to us? And everybody's sick. Everybody,
Oh,
you know,
100%.
yeah,
Autoimmune
everybody's,
disease skyrocketing, like even just environmental sensitivity is like kids are being born and their threshold for chemicals is already so, full that they're being born with issues instead of like developing them later in life. It's alarming. And it's in this
and
world it's
so,
kind of hard to feel like you can avoid those things, but
but
one
here's
thing you
the
can
scary
take
part,
control of is
Samantha.
your food.
Yeah, here's the scary part. I've watched this change in a lifetime. What's the next 50 years going to be like? Michael Pollan said it. I love him to death. He is an amazing author. I don't know if you've ever read any of his book. Omnivore's Dilemma is eye-opening. That's like a
Okay.
30-year-old book. But one thing he said in that book that has stuck with me, every time you eat, you vote with your fork. Every time you eat,
Mm,
you're telling corporate America what you're allowed and what you're willing to do. Now, 30 years ago, that was kind of like, okay, it's kind of, maybe it's not, maybe that's going to happen, maybe it's not. But we're here today and it's huge. So here we are.
yeah.
We live in the Wally world. Everything's processed. And when people hire me to do catering gigs for them and they're blown away at a simple salad, that tells you there's something wrong. If they're not used to having fresh vegetables, that's a
Yeah,
problem with our society. And it's scary.
absolutely. Yeah, and I
And we've been,
it's a cultural thing. It's like it's in everything now.
it is. It is. So what can we do? We vote with our forks. We start taking back. We start taking back our decisions. Nope, I'm not going to get that processed food. I'm not going to get the fast food. I'm going to make food. I'm going to make it. I'm going to pull up a recipe online or look at the guts of fermentation and make a recipe in there. And I'm going to eat that. And I'm going to enjoy it with my family.
And I'm gonna
I mean, my
feel the
gosh.
nourishment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I watched it. When I was a little girl, we had one TV. You had to get up and change the channel on the TV. And I remember when TV trays became this big deal and
Oh,
TV
yeah.
dinners, you could eat in front of your TV. So now we've lost the family unit at the table,
And the
which
awareness
is
of
also
the
huge.
eating.
Yeah. And this isn't, I mean, The rest of the world is going that direction too, but they're not there. I hosted exchange students for like 8 years, and they were always baffled if we wanted to eat in front of the TV. And they would eat at the table because they're like, nope, I have to eat at the table. I'm not eating on the furniture. And
Huh.
it's really interesting how our cultural that's our culture, and that's what we are accepting. So it does take a little more work to be able to cook in the kitchen, but we have so many amazing tools we can use, like an air fryer, for example. My goodness.
Yeah.
We've got so many tools that we can use to puree pesto sauce and make smoothies, and there's no reason for us outsourcing our food.
Yeah. And we're all busy and we
Yeah.
justify the quick options because, like, even for me, it's like, I know I want to get all my nutrients. So I'm like, okay, I have to get a meal plan because I don't have the time to cook. I don't have the time to, shop. I don't have the time for this, for that. But it's really about making the time for what actually matters. And food is fuel. That is one of the only things, food and exercise, that 100% of the time, if you're doing it right, you're gonna live longer and feel better. So that should become a priority.
And if you don't know, if you're on the fence, something I say in my book, monitor your poop. Seriously, look at your poop, log it for the next 2 weeks. What color is it? Does it float? Is it small pebbles? Is it a big log? What exactly are you looking at for 2 weeks? That'll tell you more about what's going on in your gut than any doctor's test that you could do. And you could take that to your doctor and say, what is my problem? And they should be able to tell you based on that. The Bristol stool chart has been around forever. I have a pretty one in my book because I thought that one was kind of ugly. It's watercolored. Interesting how I asked my artist, can you draw me some poop? He did.
I have a
And
request.
it actually looked cute. Yeah. So, but
Cute poop.
checking your poop, does it smell? Does it float? All of those are all signals. And I think, Samantha, that's where we're going with quit outsourcing your health. Our ancestors knew what was wrong with their bodies by what their bodies told them. We've
Exactly.
kind of shut that out.
We have to learn to
And
listen again.
we have to listen to and what comes out definitely is going to tell you what's going on.
I actually met
So
somebody at a conference. It was a microbiome conference, and he was trying to build an app where it analyzed your poop.
instead of just analyzing it yourself,
Yeah. So that's another
wow.
thing we're outsourcing.
Tell me what my poop is. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Skin.
I want to do a poopathon for kids. I think that would be really fun. And I know they're not allowed to talk about poop at school, but I think if I could tie the science aspect to it, it may be something that takes off. And if we start teaching kids, it's okay to talk about poop and you put some education around it, maybe it'll be a little bit accepting and everyone will start looking. My editor was absolutely disgusted with my poop chapter. She was like, I can't even look at this. It was really funny.
Well, I think from kids, starting when they're children to develop those like mental blueprints of what matters. Like maybe the poop is the doorway that gets their interest going because it's taboo, and they learn so many things that impact the rest of their lives because of it. So I absolutely agree. And it would be a fun project.
Yeah, I think so. You could have the kids draw their own poop and take, and then post them. Yeah, it would be
Get
really
creative.
funny. It would be fun. But for anybody that wants to know how to do this, I think that our health practitioners could really use this knowledge. Do you know we don't talk about this stuff when you're going through getting your PhD? They don't talk about the gut microbiome, and they don't because we didn't have the technology to actually look at microbes until like the 2000s, really get in there and be able to start identifying it and put some details to it. So it's still exciting and new, and there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think, like coaches and anybody, like I wish my therapist would have said, Michelle, have you tried eating fermented foods?
Mm-hmm. Oh my
Because
gosh, I know.
wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking about that. So yeah, why wouldn't they say, why don't you try fermented foods? That's going to make you happy.
Because that doesn't make the system money. And it's so interesting because food as medicine is not new. It is the oldest knowledge that we have, but they don't teach it in medical school. They don't say the first thing that you should do is ask about your patient's diet and how that's contributing to what they're feeling and their lifestyle and their habits. They just, it's a Band-Aid, throw a pill at it, you know, and
a Band-Aid.
That's
it. It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's what takes away our health agency because we're pretending that we don't have any power over how we feel.
So true. And we do have power. We just have to take it back. We have to start asking those questions. We have to start doing our own research, man. What does your poop look like? If it's floating, you've got too much fat in your diet. Cut the fat out. It's a very simple question, you know, and if it's got color, my gosh, go to the doctor. You know, you can test how long it takes at your transient time for poop.
What do you mean?
So you can eat beets, like a half a cup of beets, cooked beets, and you can time it to find out how long it takes to go all the way through your system for you to poop it out. It'll freak you out because it'll be red, you know, and
just
obviously
be ready. Beet ready.
Make that mental note that I ate beets. Maybe write it and put it on your mirror so you don't freak out. But 24 to 48 hours is the ideal time for transient time. And if it's anything before that, there's reasons for that. Things that you can change. Like you're not getting all your nutrients if it passes through you. And then if it's too long, then you've got too many of other things that you need to look at. And if you can tell your doctor that, they can actually help you and help you along that. They just don't have that knowledge and there's not a test for it.
You know, one big thing that comes up for me as a whole from everything we've talked about is patience. Because culturally, politically, everything is so results driven and we need immediate gratification in order to continue doing something. But everything that is worth doing is something that takes patience and there's no avoiding that. So being patient enough for your food to ferment, being patient enough to wait for your diet to make you feel better because it's not going to be immediate because you've spent years and years.
Immediate.
You spent years and years doing this to your gut lining. It's going to take a bit to reset. And we all have to be a little more patient, I think, in these matters.
I think that is very key. And I don't think it's too much to ask. 2 weeks, you'll see a difference if you follow it. That doesn't seem that long to me.
And I loved your 2-week protocol because it's comprehensive. It's holistic. You're moving. All of this is so important. It's not like you can just fix one area of your life and expect everything to come together. You have to move. You have to eat well. You have to do the mental work because the way that you think impacts the way your body works. Yeah, got a belly laugh. That's great. So,
and then I expanded in my frameworks so you can actually really dive in. And I have meal plans. It's not diets. It's just a way of incorporating the fermented foods into like 2 weeks worth of meals. So you're not eating the same thing every day and you're getting you're getting the diversity in your diet and you're making that happen. And I started a program. I haven't announced it yet, but it's a train the trainer type program. So
brilliant.
If coaches want to learn about it and incorporate it into their stuff, they could, because all this is going to do is help people feel better. And that's what we need.
That's what we want. Help people help themselves feel better.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I have a gentleman that has Lyme disease and he was not feeling good. He said some days he would lay in the bed and not even be able to get out. And there's not a cure for Lyme disease. But do you know he started my protocol and he started feeling better? I think it's the dopamine. I think the dopamine that he got, the happiness that his gut-brain axis was doing to him was helping him heal. If we're happy, we feel better.
Yeah. And it's a cycle, right? If we're happy, we're in less pain. We're in less pain. We're more happy. All of these things. It completely,
we feel better.
Especially
inflammation releases. Yeah.
From a Lyme autoimmune standpoint, like I've dealt with that myself. And the only thing that has worked is patience with eating right and moving properly and feeding my mind what it needs and exposing myself to all the right things. So, because I didn't want to take pills, I didn't want pills to be my solution. I don't want to rely on something for the rest of my life. I want to rely on routine and trust that I'm doing everything right for my body. And it's different for everybody. The same way
Yeah.
pills interact differently with every system, you're going to need something different. Some people need to be grain-free. Some people need to be, whatever it is. You have to learn to listen to your body in order to figure that out. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing, ever.
Yeah. And, there's another aspect to that too that we didn't talk about, which I should slide in really quickly. It may not be the food that you have the allergy to. It may be how that food was treated, processed, grown, cleaned.
That's so true. That's so true because I had wheat like crazy when I went to Italy. No problems at all. I lost weight and I didn't have any chronic pain issues, any inflammatory response. It was insane. And I come here and I have a tiny bit and it's like for weeks I messed up.
Doubled over.
So that, and also as your gut becomes a safer space and your lining repairs and it has the right microbial balance, you might not be allergic to the same foods anymore because your body is putting out, it doesn't know what's friend or foe at that point. So your gut immune system is like consistently activated and reacting to everything. So if you can calm that down, you might not even have the same restrictions that you used to.
And that right there is a chapter in my book. It's even called Friend or Foe, Samantha.
That's so great.
It's fantastic. It's like you wrote it.
I knew we were going to connect.
So, that's awesome.
So to close things out, and I'm so excited, your book comes out January 1st of this new year, 2026. 31st. What did I say? January 31st?
No, you January 1st.
I did? That's crazy.
It was yesterday.
That already happened. Yeah, that already happened. It's coming at the end of this month. And I guess I would like to end with a broader question that if you could rewrite the cultural story around food, what would you want it to look like after everyone read your book?
I would love to see everyone with gardens in their backyards or barrels on their decks. We can grow our food in very small places. And I think that I'd love to see the frozen sections and the processed foods disappear. I would love to see people just eating better, feeling better, and we're not giving so much of our power away by trusting that food corporations are going to help us when they're
or have
not
our
there
best
for
interest
that.
in mind in any capacity.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't. So, yeah, that's what I would like. Can I have that?
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
You know what? I would love to see my book become like a movement. I have an app I'm creating that ties to my book.
Brilliant.
And I've got the workshops and the Train the Trainer program. So and kits. I'm going to do fermentation kits.
Brilliant.
So you can buy a kit, like if you want to make June, and I'll have the honey and the tea and the jar, everything in there, and you just get it. I tried to do ferments, but legally in the United States, that's very difficult unless you have, you're one of like 5 processing plants that are approved to do raw food. So yeah, I can't unfortunately
Well, I
do
wish
that,
you were
but
local
I can
because I would be requesting some of your brews if you will.
The curry ferments are my favorite. I love curry anything. Curry cauliflower and garlic. Oh my gosh.
Any curry too, any cultural curry like Thai curry, Indian curry, all of it.
Yeah.
I always say curry is good for the soul. Like when I'm feeling down or sick, I'm like, I need some curry, some warm, spices.
And I have curry condiments. Yeah. I have curry condiments in the recipe section. So
that's
you can
awesome.
make all kinds of them and let them sit on your counter. You don't even have to refrigerate them, which is kind of neat.
Let's genuinely make this a revolution. Like we all need to stand up, empower ourselves, and realize that it's worth the time and energy and effort to choose to take all of this into our own hands.
Yes, I agree 100%. I think we'll all feel better. I know by doing my program myself, I feel like a brand new person. There's no way I could have done this book without going through that program.
That's so awesome.
And I love
That's
the
so
fact
awesome.
that I lost weight.
Hell yeah. Never hurts. That's your body saying, thank
Nope.
you.
Yes. Things are working out just great. I love it.
Awesome, Michelle. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. I'm so excited to get your book on January 31st of this year. And I'll share all of your links in the show notes and we'll get things going for this revolution of ours.
Well, thank you, Samantha. And maybe there's something we can do together. We'll have to talk
I would love
offline
that.
about that. But
Absolutely.
I think with your background and my background, it's a good combo.
I would love that. I too am a serial entrepreneur, so let's jump into something.
Yes, I agree.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Michelle, thank you for reminding us that nourishment isn't a product. It's a relationship. You've shown us that healing the gut isn't just biochemical. It's ecological. It's communal. It's political, and it's deeply personal. For everyone listening, if you felt your body exhale during that episode, trust that. That's your cells remembering something wiser than our modern food culture. Go check out Michelle's book, The Guts of Fermentation. It comes out on January 1st of this year, 2026. Support your local growers, get to the farmers market, and start one small act of reclamation today. A garden bed, a jar on your counter, or even just a meal cooked with intention. And your microbes will take it from there. As always, thank you for being here and keep shining.